I borrowed money, a couple of, $1,000 to pay for things like an editor and a proofreader, to pay for a cover designer, and to pay for a cartographer to draw the map in the front. And my piece of trivia that I can share with you is that the man that did the map in the front previously worked on the, I don't know what the Sydney version of it is, but the roadways, or he did the Melbourne one of that, which is called Melways. Sidways. Right. And I self-published using Amazon's self-publication platform. And it turned out that there was a market. Thank you, guys. Within 24 hours of the book being published, it was hitting, #1 across categories in Amazon, and there was so much word of mouth on blogs and Goodreads that it started to pick up reviews from mainstream review sites. I think the first of which was we got a really positive review from USA Today. And after 4 weeks of that kind of energy, a New York agent approached me, and she said to me, I'd like to represent you. I think we can sell your book to a Big Six publisher in New York. And I absolutely didn't believe her when she said that, but I thought, sure, if you want to try doing that, that's great. And we got 2 offers, and the most robust of which, actually we had 4 expressions of interest and 2 offers, the most robust of which was from Penguin. And now the book's being published, in multiple languages, in multiple countries. And I feel like the reason for all of that is, obviously I would like to think that it was because I wrote a cracking book, but I honestly can say that none of that would have happened if not for just the generous support of all of the online readers, to whom I'm so grateful. And I think also, if not for the power of the online space itself, I think that the online world and online fiction, that's a space that I have really profound respect for. That is a vast readership of tens of millions, which rises to like hundreds of millions if you include fan fiction as part of that combined space. And, that community, existing largely unwatched by commercial interests, has been growing like in the dark, essentially, for over 2 decades, and producing kinds of fiction that, we go to those spaces because we're looking for something that we're not necessarily finding in commercial bookshops. And we're writing those kinds of stories in those spaces because, in a way, maybe we do feel from commercial spaces like, oh, this space is not for that work. And I think that as a result of that, actually the fact that, that space hasn't been commercialized, at least not until very recently, I think that's been really important for that space artistically, because it has allowed that kind of artistic freedom that you don't get when there's a dollar sign attached to your work. When you think that something's at stake, or you think that your work has to fit into a certain mold, or even if you think your book has to be a book, even if you think your book has to be finished, you might not start it. So I've had, a couple of people ask me, like I've had a couple of interviews like over the last couple of weeks where people have asked me, like this, something like this, do you think that your book is opening a door for online fiction, or do you think that your book is going to allow other works to kind of come through a door that you've opened? And I feel like it's the other way around. I feel like there's been this vast tradition of really amazing creative work that has been built online, and that all of that work, much of it unpaid, has opened a door that my book has been lucky enough to walk through. I feel as if, literature, like any human enterprise, is about building on what has come before. You can't, have a spa until someone invents plumbing. And literature is the same. It's a forward-moving enterprise that's about building on traditions that have come before. But if there's nothing to build on, if there's literally nothing there that you can evolve out of, then you can't make a book like Captive Prince. And if I look to the commercially published space, you know, I feel like my book, in a way, it has no literary antecedents. There's nothing in that space really that I can look to and say, you know, that's the kernel of possibility that said that something like my book could be a book. But if I look online at these amazing communities and their energies, then I feel like, you know, oh, that's where that seed of possibility came from. I feel like that's what allowed me, kind of gave me permission to write my book. So I feel incredibly grateful to that space, and also to all of you readers. I think it's as we're kind of seeing commercial interests just starting to arrive at the edge of that space, and we're realizing this is a space that's been, we talked a little bit about this last night actually, this is a space that's essentially been beta testing for free for like 20 years, what the wider community is right on the cusp of commercializing. Then I think we're right at a point now where we're all willing to kind of see what is the value of that space, and understand, you know, it's the breeding ground for the new. That's where new works and new ideas are going to come from. So I wanted to do a reading tonight. Perhaps a scene in motion, bodies already moving, soft sounds or splashes in the water. In fact, the baths were empty, except for one person. As yet untouched by the steam, clothed from toe tip to neck, and standing in the place where slaves were washed before they entered the soaking bath. When Damon saw who it was, he instinctively lifted a hand to his gold collar, unable to quite believe that he was unrestrained and that they were alone together. Laurent reclined against the tiled wall, settling his shoulders flat against it. He regarded Damon with a familiar expression of golden-lashed dislike. "So my slave is bashful in the arena, don't you fuckboys in Akalos?" "I'm quite cultured. Before I rape anyone, I first check to see if their voice has broken," said Damon. Laurent smiled. "Did you fight at Malas?" Damon did not react to the smile, which was not authentic. The conversation was now on a knife edge. He said, "Yes." "How many did you kill?" "I don't know." "Lost count?" Pleasantly, as one might inquire about the weather, Laurent said, "The barbarian won't fuck boys. He prefers to wait a few years and then use a sword in place of his cock." Damon flushed. "It was battle. There was death on both sides." "Oh yes, we killed a few of you too. I would like to have killed more, but my uncle is unaccountably clement with them, and you've met him." Laurent resembled one of the etched figures of the intaglio, except that he was done in white and gold, not silver. Damon looked at him and thought, "This is the place where you had me drugged." "Have you waited 6 days to talk to me about your uncle?" Damon said. Laurent rearranged himself against the wall into a position that looked even more indolently comfortable than the one before. "My uncle has ridden to Chastillon. He hunts boar. He likes the chase. He likes the kill, too. It's a day's ride, after which he and his party will stay 5 nights at the old keep. His subjects know better than to bother him with missives from the palace. I have waited 6 days so that you and I could be alone." Those sweet blue eyes gazed at him. It was, when you shook off the sugared tone, a threat. "Alone with your men guarding the doors," said Damon. "Are you going to complain again that you're not allowed to hit back?" said Laurent, the voice sweetened further. "Don't worry, I won't hit you unless I have a good reason." "Did I seem worried?" said Damon. "You seemed a little agitated," said Laurent, "in the ring. I liked it best when you're on your hands and knees. Cur, do you think I will tolerate insolence? By all means, try my patience." Damon was silent. He could feel the steam now, curling heat against his skin. He could feel, too, the danger. He could hear himself. No soldier would talk this way to a prince. A slave would have been on his hands and knees the second he saw that Laurent was in the room. "Shall I tell you the part you liked?" said Laurent. "There was nothing I liked." "You're lying. You liked knocking that man down, and you liked it when he didn't get up. You'd like to hurt me, wouldn't you? Is it very difficult to control yourself? Your little speech about fair play fooled me about as much as your show of obedience. You have worked out, with whatever native intelligence you possess, that it serves your interests to appear both civilized and dutiful, but the one thing you're hot for is a fight. Are you here to goad me into one?" said Damon, in a new voice that seemed to rise up from deep within him. Laurent pushed off the wall. I don't roll in the sty with swine, said Laurent coolly. I'm here to bathe. Have I said something astonishing? Come here. It was a moment before Damon found he could obey. The instant he'd entered the room, he had weighed the option of physically overpowering Laurent and dismissed it. He would not make it out of the palace alive if he hurt or killed Vir's crown prince. That decision had not come without some regret. He came to stand 2 steps away. As well as dislike, he was surprised to find there was something assessing in Laurent's expression, as well as something self-satisfied. He had expected bravado. Certainly there were guards outside the door, and at a sound from their prince, they would likely come bursting in, bristling with swords. But there was no guarantee that Damon wouldn't lose his temper and kill Laurent before that happened. Another man might. Another man might think that the inevitable retribution, some sort of public execution ending with his head on a spike, was worth it for the pleasure of wringing Laurent's neck. Strip, said Laurent.